Yeah, we're going to put this around so that that goes forward. Yes. Right, we are now connected to live stream, so the meeting can officially get underway. I'd like to welcome the council members of the public that have joined us today, our staff, and to those members of the public watching via the live stream. Welcome everybody. The meeting is now underway at 1:01 p.m. Te kara kia hora, te marino, te kia whakapapa, whenāmu te moana. Hei hurahei, ngā tātou, hei te reni nei, araha atu, araha mai, tātou ie, tātou katoa, hui e, taikia. Now, apologies, we have received an apology from Councillor Phelps, and we have a delayed one from Francois Tumahoe. He will be here around 2 p.m. So can I have a move and a seconder, please, that is accepted? That Councillor Neal, Councillor Manera. Resolved that the apologies are received and accepted. Thank you, everybody. Declarations of interest. The Local Authorities Members Interest Act of 1968, you're all aware of that, and there have been no changes recorded or noted, so we'll move from there through to urgent items on the agenda. There are none, so to recognise there. So moving on to minutes of meetings. The resolution is that the minutes of the Extraordinary Council meeting, Local Waters Done Well consultation, held on the 26th of June 2025, be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Burden, thank you. Councillor Baird, thank you very much. All in favour? Carried, thank you. And I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed Extraordinary Council meeting minutes of 26 June 2025. The next minutes are the Ordinary Council meeting minutes of 26 June 2025. And again, the resolution is that the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on 26 June 2025 be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. Again, can I have a move and a seconder, please? Councillor Baird, thank you. Councillor Manera, all in favour? Carried, thank you. And again, I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed council meeting minutes of 26 June 2025, being that of the Ordinary Council meeting. There's no minutes to be received from the standing committees, so we will move on to the action list. And Barb, Chief Executive, is to speak to the action list, please.
Afternoon. First item on the action list is the council headquarters, 36 World Street, and the Peki Waikawa building, 41 World Street, Hokitika. Both of these items from the last meeting have been combined, and then both is items on today's agenda. Second item is the Hokitika Museum Trust Board formation. There was a request that a small meeting would meet to give your understanding of the requirements for the museum's trust board and what that would look like. That meeting has taken place. I was hoping to get the draft terms of reference for that back to this meeting. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get it out for feedback in enough time. So I've circulated that to the group for feedback, and we'll bring it to the August meeting for the whole council for discussion. Third item is the Hokitika CBD strategy. We did have a Hokitika CBD strategy group meeting. It was held on Tuesday the 10th of June. We are waiting until another meeting and papers will be prepared for that meeting. Fourth item is the West Coast Wilderness Trail. There was a meeting of the Wilderness Trail that was held on the 14th of July, where amendments to the draft terms of reference were made. The next meeting has been scheduled for the 12th of September, 3 p.m. in Council Chambers, where the terms of reference will be held. Item 5 is the Hokitika Racecourse Development. A quarterly update is provided for this council meeting on the 24th of July. Sixth item is Lake Canary. There was a request for a roundtable meeting to discuss issues at Lake Canary. The roundtable meeting was intended to be scheduled in July and reported back as part of the Chief Executive's quarterly report on the 24th of July. We've been unable to get all of the people that need to be at that meeting, so again, I might circulate that out of session to council members so you know what's happened as part of that meeting, and then we'll do a formal update of the next meeting in August. Hokitika Westland Eyesight was the last item on the action list. Councillor Burden requested a review of around the CCO workshop, and I believe that information has been provided to Councillor Burden.
Correct, I've been provided with the meeting notes, minutes and recordings to review myself, so I'll do that. Thank you.
And in addition, I've convened a small working group, as we spoke about at the last meeting, to look at all of those streams of investments that the council are making so that we can bring it back to the council as a full picture. Items such as the eyesight, where we're going to look at the West Coast Wilderness just as an overview to inform the whole picture of the investments. The Regent Theories are all invited to come and speak to that small working group so we can get it together. Items for the meeting. Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Barb? Councillor Kessler?
Sure, if I can. One's a point of clarification, one's a question. The terms of reference for the West Coast Wilderness Trail weren't changed, just the membership of that. So just wanted to make that clarification clear. Lake Canary, and obviously declaring my conflict of interest, the issue raised by my father-in-law, would he who raised the issue be intended to be invited to that roundtable?
I think if it has to be included in the invite, we can include that. We've still got to make sure everyone's on the same in the diary, so it's an opportunity.
My understanding is that would be appreciated.
Paul?
Like Canary, that was always the intention, your worship, incorporate
Yes.
as a key link. That was otherwise, it could easily turn into a snowball.
Yep, that's noted, and that was the intention because he's the one that raised the flag as well, and he's the one opponent on the situation. So that's noted, and he will be part of that discussion. Any further questions for Barb, please? Points of clarification? No?
Just the membership of the Wilderness Trail Committee, that where someone who's born for it.
Ash, do you want to answer to that?
So the changes are at the July meeting with the addition of two elected representatives on behalf of the Trail Partners. So we had Cindy Hopper and Sue Stiles join. Those are the changes that are noted here. Subsequent to that, Councillor Gillett has resigned from that committee, and Councillor Beard has been invited to join that committee and accepted that, which has to be ratified at that meeting in September.
Anything further? Right. I'm after a mover and a seconder, please, so we can resolve that the updated action list from the Chief Executive be received and that those items completed now be removed.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Davison. Councillor Pearson, thank you very much. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Next we have presentations, and a big welcome to Beryl, Gary and Bob that are here today with us to talk to us about the 3 Mile Domain Committee funds. Welcome and come on up. Might need to bring one more chair up with you. No, it's just the two of you, is it? You all joining Gary? Yeah. Now, Gary?
Yeah.
Welcome everybody, welcome to the table, and I'll let you present to us. Welcome.
Mayor, Senior Management, Councillors and General Public. My name is Beryl Agnew and I have been a member of the committee of the 3 Mile Hall Domain Board for over 36 years. Gary is a born and bred 3 Mile person and he is on our committee. When the 3 Mile Hall was classed unsuitable for general public use, our committee leased the hall to Coastpac Moss, who paid a lease for a number of years. This, along with other astute fundraising initiatives, gained us a healthy bank balance of over $200,000. It wasn't until 1991 that our committee were informed that Western District Council would be taking over the functions of the 3 Mile Domain as part of the 1989 government reforms. At the time, our committee had a meeting with the then CEO of Western District Council, who assured us that council had a very strong moral obligation to accept suggestions from our committee as to how the monies would be allocated. Some monies from our fundraising efforts have previously been distributed to other local community projects, e.g. Laser Park. We hope that you look favourably on the following motion. The balance of the 3 Mile Domain fundraising monies as at 31st of March 2025 was $85,414.22. The planned 3 Mile book production and interpretation panel's estimated cost of $35,000, including estimated price increases, will remain in the 3 Mile Domain account and will be drawn down by the committee. These projects may take approximately another year to finalise, but are being worked on. A balance of $50,000 be immediately allocated to the Westland Industrial Heritage Park to assist their committee with the building of the Heritage Craft Centre. Their presentation has been provided to council.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the in-depth information that you sent through with that. It's good to have the background to the fund because it actually transcends a few councils as well through the time. So councillors, please, questions? Any clarification you require?
No, Rob, make it really clear.
So with that, do I take it that councillors support the transfer of funds to the Western Industrial Heritage Park to assist their committee with seed funding? So Paul?
Through your worship, it's a really good project. I think the Heritage Park is a great asset. But I do wonder whether it would have been better to have had opened it to other applications from other groups that may have been able to access this. I mean, the sizable sum. In fact, it's more than what the Grey District Council has for their annual contestable funding, which all manner of community groups have to apply for. So anyway, I just thought that maybe it could have been opened up to other projects as well. But that may well, I mean, not to diminish this project, it's also a good project.
This money can only go to a reserve.
Actually, I don't think that's actually noted in the earlier on. And it is for you to decide on, and I guess you have considered recipients with the funds, so we can trust that as being the pathway. Are there any further questions on that? Because really what they're looking for is the support of council in what they are wanting to do with the funds.
Through your worship, my question's probably not so much about the project. I do support the project, I think it's great, I'm happy to support that. My question is more so about the 3 Mile Hall site and the piece of land. What is the use now of that? You know, is there another piece of land that we can look at getting rid of?
Well, it's a reserve of the council, the council owned reserve.
So the committee have no desire to see that used for anything?
We haven't discussed that.
So that might be another piece of work that we can look into, because there might be some more revenue there that can be put into something.
Yeah, potentially join the land review that we're doing, is what you're saying, Councillor?
Yeah.
So we can include it in that, and Jan's sitting over there privy to the conversation, so.
And we should also be in conversation.
Yes.
Right, so
But I was just saying it's important that we involve you in any discussion going forward and make sure we've got the committee's backing with whatever the final decision is on that land, rather than make a decision without that involvement. So council, is everybody happy to support that the balance of 50,000 be immediately allocated to the Westland Industrial Heritage Park to assist their committee with seed funding? Is that unanimous around the table? Right, if we can just record that the council gave unanimous support to the aspirations of the 3 Mile Domain Committee. Would you like a letter of support from that, or are you quite happy to have that word from the council's meeting?
Last have a letter.
Is it? Okay, lovely, we'll get that done and get that out to you.
You do a great job.
So thank you very much for taking the time to come in and present to us today and talk to us. Yeah, it's brilliant, and it's been great work that you've been doing, and also the fact that you're putting that seed funding into the industrial park. I'm sure Bob's nodding in agreement that it's greatly received by them as well, because it's a continuation of good work in the community.
Yeah, I'd like to record the park's gratitude for council considering in our favour. Thank you. We're obviously very thankful to the main committee.
It's wonderful. Brilliant. No, that's great. Thank you very much. So we'll get that letter done. Bob, your comments are noted now in the minutes. And thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
Right. So the next item on the agenda is item 8, which is the staff reports. And first up, we have the Chief Executive's quarterly report. Thank you.
I do realise that the quarterly report is quite a lengthy document, and I think in the past what has occurred is that the CEs have spoken to the highlights of the reports and taken it as read and then asked for questions or queries after. I'm happy if that occurs for this as well. So in that format, can I just draw your attention to the first highlight I'd like to talk about, which is the building consent area. We did note in that area that there was a IANZ audit that was due to last week. I'm able to tell you that these are provisional results, but I thought you'd be interested to know, it's still yet to be confirmed, that the feedback from the audit team was that the building controls area has been performing exceptionally well, that it has been provisionally assessed as low risk due to excellent evidence of implementation of quality management system and processes. The process that they actually engage with is both an opportunity to look at the systems and processes that are actually currently being embedded in Westland District Council, but also gives an opportunity for staff to talk about the latest developments or current pieces of work that are currently being undertaken, that the auditors can also assist in giving a bit more of a lift in terms of what we're doing. So it's a two-way conversation, which has been proving to be very valuable. There were no serious or high-level issues that were identified. The audit identified 8 minor non-conformances in total. 2 were cleared on the day that IANZ was here, and the 6 remaining findings already have a plan in place to address those, and we'll be working with the auditors to make sure that they're comfortable with that. I'm not sure whether it was reported last time, but at the last audit there were 14 findings in total, 8 being cleared by IANZ on site. So the numbers are going down, which is always pleasing to see, and the feedback has been quite positive from the auditors in a provisional sense. So we'll expect to see that formally, but just so you both are aware of that. And sorry. That was in terms of the highlights. I think there's a lot of information in here, and I would like to have a look at how we report the CE report in the future, so it's a little bit more concise, and perhaps it might be worthwhile if we also consider whether or not we should have some of the teams come and present on some of the areas in the CE report, so you get to see more of the teams actually in some of the key pieces of work that they're doing. As you know, we'll be embarking on the business planning process as part of setting up for success, and that should give you a good timeline of what key pieces of work and milestones will be happening across the year. I'm happy to open up for any questions or queries on the report.
No, but I would like to thank you both for the report. Sorry, I'll just, yeah, it's a change to what we've had and it's really informative and the information is fantastic. And also for the building department with their IAN's report, I would like to note on behalf of council how thrilled we are with the results that they have achieved and to pass on our congratulations to them all. It's great. I know the amount of work that's gone into that has been extensive, and Anna's credit to Anna, she's had the whole team on board making her with that, and they're all very, very proud. I think she showed them morning tea this morning, so good spirit in the building. Councillor Pearson.
Four from me, sorry to be a pain. Museum, noting 16,000 for Kura Parnamo being on. I think that's a really impressive feat to achieve that. And we've had a fair share of criticism, so very impressive to see that through such an exhibition and we have such good numbers through it. It's nice to see that space being used and used well. Building stuff and the planning stuff, that's really good. Obviously, you know, that for 100% compliance within each sort of time frames. 100%, 98.9 and 98% pretty good metrics to be taken off. So, we've been in worse places in the past, so it's good to see those numbers trending very well. Health and safety wise, for me, there appears to be a trend of one incident in the pool, having seen a couple each month in 5 months. If we look at Swiss Cheese model of risk and health and safety, lots of ones happening, do lead to something bigger happening, and ultimately the quite seems quite high risk if something has to go wrong. With that.
It does go up to the health and safety committee and discussion. You've got to start on this. But I'll take your point. It's probably something that we could put on the agenda where we do see a trend coming through, and naturally we'll look in more detail in that. But I think also there's probably an opportunity that we could have a conversation with the full staff too around what some of the things we could do as a team to try and get those numbers coming down. And that would be the intent of the committee as well, that we can highlight those ones.
And so it's happening on a problem. Not reporting that it would be a problem, so it's really being reported, but I feel the trend that we're not doing. Yeah, I'm not saying we're not doing something about it, but that flagged to me, and with just numbers on a spreadsheet, I don't have too much to go off.
Yeah, and it is a full cycle too. With health and safety, one of those things I think you're right is around people feeling confident that they can report, but also confident that they can have a solution and a resolution of those going forward. But it's that whole cycle of watching the trends and how it goes. One of the things I would say is that they are very diligent at the pool around, because it's obviously an area that you can't control everybody at all times of anything. So I think it's a credit to them that they actually
The other, I guess, small trend I can see is in 3 months we've had 3 sets of contractors to do what we probably expect them to do, working on ISO following due process or procedure, which again would be something I don't know what we're doing about it, but flagging that we probably should do if we're not.
It does go up again with the and we put it this way with me separately and I have so but we try and do it as it occurs where we can, because that's where we get the most benefit from it. But I think it's 100%.
And the last point, it's not extremely report, but just acknowledging and noting the high level of undue shit our staff are getting in the public currently, and for lack of that being directed probably where it should be. Seems to be more what we're looking to support staff, but shooting messenger is by no cause good behaviour.
One of the things I am trying to do, and will do more of as we go through this financial year, is actually trying to do more of the support work for staff about how we deal with messages that go out on social media and how we deal with them internally when they come back, because they do have an effect. And people are proud to work at Westland District Council, and it doesn't cover ourselves and Gloria when we see those sort of remarks coming back, because people can be frustrated, but there are other ways of dealing with it. But we will make sure that staff are well supported. We've got programs for staff if they do feel they need additional help, but one of the cultural change pieces that we want to do is about how we better communicate out with the communities about what we do, so that people can have a more balanced view about actually what people that work in the Western District Council do every day. So we'll indeed keep that, it's a work in progress, so thank you.
Because it's very clear to me, certain areas are definitely getting the focus of that stuff, and that's the stable that decided the dog rates were going to go up, not the dog officer or the animal officer, the people who collect rates and animal registrations downstairs. We're sitting here making those decisions, but they catch the rhetoric from people on it, which is unacceptable.
Just one point with the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs report. Nicole Harris, who is our lead for Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, there was a conference in Christchurch last week in conjunction with the LGNZ conference, and Nicole and I were present. Nicole was present for the whole of the Mayor's Task Force, and I joined her for several components of that conference. She's doing a great job. We are looking at how we get more information out to the wider community and businesses on what Mayor's Task Force focuses on or is restricted by now, because the funding has changed and what it covers has changed. And I've also asked her if she would come and speak with council. I think after the elections with the new council going forward, I would like to see some, not training, but some insight gained by councillors, because there's a lot of work that we can all be doing advocating for the roles of our youth, of our young adults with the Mayor's Task Force program, because it's now linked to MSD, amongst others. So the Minister, when she spoke to us at Christchurch, said that she did not want to see children on benefits now, teenagers on benefits now, and still being on those benefits at 30 and 40 years of age. So the pressures are on to get and work with all these people and to link all the agencies that are involved with them. With that, Nicole and I were also astounded, it's probably a very light word, at the reports from some of those in the North Island, Upper North Island, far north, of the problems that they have with youth and young adults up there. It's just, yeah, unbelievable, the issues that are there and the level of depravity, but also influencing impacts on that age of people that are not going to see much in the way of change. They've got a really hard road up there, and for Nicole, it was actually quite insightful for her to think, you know, sometimes she thinks, gosh, this is hard, but it's got nothing on what these others are working with and dealing with. So very grateful to Nicole with her work. She's brilliant. She's just so approachable for these ones, because as I say, it's not just the youth, it's that 16 through to 24-year-old primarily. So it's a cross-section of ages and kids in different positions. And when you've got kids that just don't want to work, but they want to stay living with mum and dad, you've got mum and dad wanting them to go and get a job. You know, it's sad that that falls down to somebody in that position to have to try and motivate or find a place for that person in the world. So I would like to see us having a greater insight and involvement, because we are out in the community and we can have those conversations with businesses or anybody that might be willing to give a kid or a young adult a chance. So, sorry, that's my comment on that. Paul?
Your Worship, so my question on that is what about the other West Coast councils that are ditching these task force jobs?
Well, I can't speak on behalf.
Because it's unviable.
Well, I can't speak on behalf of them, or they've made their decision for whatever reason. We're not prepared to give up.
Well, it's been reduced down to, the targets have been reduced to slashed, basically, to what they were. I mean, I think there needs to be a step back and have a look at because it's not a social agency.
No, it's not.
That's not what, I mean, the issues you're talking about, that's not for council to be involved in. Mayor's Task Force for Jobs has a specific role, and that role has been hacked. So I don't know that it's a matter of let's find more for them to do. I think it's the government being very well. what I wouldn't say clear, but about this whole issue of wellbeing being taken away from local government on the one hand, they don't want wellbeing addressed, and on the other hand, they've got the likes of
the minister spoke to us, and I don't think she sees Minister Task Force for Jobs as part of the wellbeing folder.
So why are they cut?
There was a lot of pushback on what she had to say as far as the changes, and a lot of the negotiations that have gone through on the funding and the rearrangement of it has been exceptional. Why have they cut it? I don't know what the baseline is that's driving them with the direction they're going, because it wasn't broken before, so why try and reinvent the wheel? It was actually working, and our team had been working so well, they're actually giving some of our gains to Greymouth to help their numbers be boosted. So, you know, that's the quality of the team we had before, but the changes have made it really tough. But it's important that we try and bring these youth through. I don't know what the next plan is, but I would say that there potentially is another plan, depending on the results in the next year, because the reporting lines are very tough.
Some other matters, but the welcoming communities, how long has that got to run?
Check that for you, Paul, because we had a discussion with Marcus about that, so I'll come back to you on that with the action figure, sorry.
Because they had a very finite funding, and
He's handed that over to me.
okay, that's right. Another couple from the one wasn't around. The government levies landfill levies. Is that ETS?
Sorry.
Pardon?
Page.
Oh, hang on.
Chris, I can speak to that. The ETS, emissions trading scheme, is what we pay carbon credits for. The levies is direct charge by government for waste disposal.
Right, so that's
Two separate items.
So that's egress pension as well. Yes. Egress. And so the ETS has been a problem for other councils with the landfills. And no doubt, no less so here.
No, we pay prescribed carbon credit per tonne of waste that goes into landfill. So, and it's the carbon credits are a floating market rate, so they can be $55 this month and $75 this month.
The transport is worrying, the resealing. So we had a target of 70.4 kilometres or 4.5% of the road network for resealing, and NZTA requested future targets of 9%, which is going to be 35.4 kilometres of resealing, which is going to put enormous pressure on us. So on the one hand, I mean, yes, I'm misreading this, on the one hand, the government strips you away your funding, and in the next breath, they're saying that you've got to do more.
And they're setting almost impossible targets. Well, not impossible targets, but when you spread surfacing companies over the three different councils that we've got here, makes the program work very hard because we're quite weak, of course. So the ceiling days are limited, and we're costing on the rate to go up without seekers.
Yes, I mean, so that's going to have such an impact on Western because we looked carefully at how much was going to go towards resealing and how much for footpaths, etc., and yet this is shown quite clearly with the NZTA, as it says in the report, through the New Zealand government. So in other words, government pressure has been brought to bear, saying you get less money, but you're going to be you're now required to double the amount of resealing in crimes.
Well, I wonder just that, actually, I wonder if it's worth, because it is a significant issue for us, and there's not an easy answer to it, and we don't have an easy negotiation process through this. In fact, there's very little negotiation process for us. I wonder whether it's worth actually pulling together a paper for the councils so they get a bit more of an in-depth view of some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that we could see, because we might be able to lever some of the councillors, wait behind some of our discussions with the NZTA if we need to. But then there isn't an easy answer that will give you our way. That might be helpful. So we'll look at bringing that forward.
Just on that, Your Worship, usually we would be provided roughly every 6 months with a full transportation update from the transportation team. I don't think we've received one now in nearly 12 months, maybe. So it might be timely to
Maybe roll it
do a
up
full,
together.
yeah,
Sorry, I
put it
wasn't
all together
aware
and-
of something else then, but
Yeah.
we roll it up together. And that will give you the.
I
full
just,
picture.
I only know that we were searching for some information last week around speed reduction stuff and couldn't find anything. There was 3 transportation papers and there was a gap, so.
No, that's good. I wasn't aware that we were outstanding, but we'll get that.
Just to point out some clarification, Bill, NZTA, correct me if I'm wrong, are they not involved in our budget setting and all that for all this initially as well? For our
To a certain
transport
extent.
plans?
Yeah.
So this is coming now pressure on top of.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
And it's a one-way conversation.
Yeah.
And just on that too, last week I met with somebody that does the reporting, manages the reporting of councils and their road transportation. And he's given me the card so I can share that with everybody because they're quite all right if we have a look at the performance of this council on transportation. Some really interesting information there. Really good to see and have, and there's nothing private about it. But it's just, I'll share that out with everybody because it's a great graph to view. And we are actually positioned very nicely in the middle of performance, if not to the other side of that. And that's benchmarked against the country, not just against like by like. And I must say also too is that our staff were actually complimented on the credibility they come to the table with and the respect that they're held in. I did want to pass that on.
Can we have that information included in that transportation update so it can be shared publicly?
Yeah, thank you.
Finally for me, the Jackson River Road, and the gate that's been installed, which makes sense. But who's in charge of deciding when that gate is to be closed for safety reasons?
For the chair, will be the transportation department. I haven't got that exactly
Because of course that road has in the past been used to control access because of unneighbourly disputes, should we say. And I'd hate to see that happen done.
No, it would be very well managed and protected, Paul, I can assure you of that.
Well, who, because there's no one down there. So who's going to do it? It's not a question.
There are people that access that use that road a lot with accessing farmland and grazing stock.
Yes, and anyone that have a least of interest, that's the point, as to who makes the call to close it for safety reasons and not for control reasons.
Safety reasons.
Through the chair, that would be the maintenance contractor down through the transportation team here.
All right. Everybody quite happy with that?
Are we going to have some conversation around the museum with the advisory committee?
We picked it up. Action.
So I'm still on that first report ahead of that.
I assume that was going to be tied into it.
All right, so there are Tokateka Museum Advisory Committee terms of reference. That's in the action items, so that's, we'll roll on from there. So the resolution is that the quarterly report from the Chief Executive dated 24th July 2025 be received. Do I have a mover or a seconder, please? Councillor Baird, thank you very much. Councillor Pearson, thank you very much. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody. And that's the museum. Jan, Hokitika Swimming Pool. Facilities and Property Manager to speak to this report, which you will find on page 35.
Your worship, elected members, I'll take my report as read. It's just as requested a clarification on the cost that was put into the LTP for 26-27 for the repairs to the roof and the floors at the Hokitika swimming pool. I will note that this has not yet been rated because it's only budgeted in 26-27, so no decision has been made if we should proceed with the project or not. When it comes to the next financial year, we will put it all together and present it to council. You then decide if you wanted to proceed. You wanted to proceed with both the roof and the floor, or the roof only, or the floor only, or not at all.
And it was well laid out. And you brought to the table exactly what was asked for, so thank you for that, appreciate it. Councillor Kessler.
Thanks for that, Jan. The mood of the room I got in the long-term plan was more so of a, let's remove that if it's a cosmetic thing. We're not in the financial position of cosmetic currently, and I don't see us here in the future. For the main good report, summarises things nicely, we now have that number. I'd be looking at a decision today to say it's out, I guess, as opposed to accepting the report and then being a different discussion to be had with the new council to make that decision. If that doesn't fly with everyone else, I'm more than happy to lose that one, 8-1, but I think we need to be making decisions on that, and that's the feel I got around the table the other day.
Just on that, councillor, it's not what was put forward, so we would have to take that back and bring that next month to make that decision. This is a matter of receiving a report or not receiving a report, acknowledging the content of the information, but not deciding on whether anything is actioned on, one way or the other in there.
I'd like to see it receiving.
The report is not containing the information for that decision. It's been built on receiving information to allow a decision, which the decision is not included for today.
And the decisions will be made through annual plan.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it will be framed as an annual plan process because we can go back and re-litigate the LTP now, but we could put it as, we could frame plan within place.
Missed opportunity for a 1.5% rate saving, but if that's how it is, then that's how it is.
We could also send that say that retrospectively anyway.
It hasn't been rated for as yet, see that.
It hasn't been rated for. No.
On the long-term plan, so it's in the percentage numbers there, so it's still there to be spent, that the council can spend it if they choose to in the future. Okay.
Cool.
I'll lose that.
Through your worship, and I agree with Councillor Casson. It just goes to show that we should have been firmer on the decision at the time of the LTP, because we're all very clear that that was cosmetic, and that we were told that at the time. We just asked for clarification basically on that. But yeah, we should have just rolled through it. There are the
If I can just clarify that, at the time, there wasn't clarification on the risk of that concrete as far as unevenness and whether there was any risk on a health and safety basis. If I remember rightly, Jan, on that one, which is why we split it in half and asked to get the two reports respectively.
Yeah, the direct breakdown of that split.
Yeah. Any further questions for Jan? No. Right, so the recommendation is that the report be received, and I'm reading it correctly around the room. The movement is to select option 1, that we receive the report. We're satisfied with the clarification of the costs for the roof and the floor upgrades of the swimming pool, as has been provided, enabling us to now decide on how we proceed with this in the future, which will be to be on the table for the annual plan next year. Everybody quite happy with that?
Yep.
With notes on that, so that that information does go through to the new council, because I also thought it was, that we were looking at taking it right off. It's enabling us to decide on how to proceed in the future, but not really.
No, it wasn't asked, the report wasn't asked to have that attached to it, decision process attached to it. So is everybody's quite happy with that? I think that was affirmative around the room. Is there anybody that's not happy to accept the report? No, so if we can note that the report's been accepted with option 1. Thank you very much, Jan, for that. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jan.
And now we have, that was just accepting of the resolution.
You need to
So do actually, no, because there is the option, preferred option. So if we can just step back into that, can I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Baird. Councillor Davison, thank you very much. That is the preferred option as one, with the reasoning to accompany that. Thank you. So next we have our rates officer to present to us on the rates write-off and remissions for 24-25. Thank you and welcome. Page 37, yes. Thank you, Craig. Welcome.
Your Worship and councillors, thank you very much. Through your chair, I'd like to present the report for write-offs and remissions for 2024-25. Option 1 to be accepted. These amounts are for the remissions, which is to our policies for write-offs, so, and also our write-offs for debt that is unrecoverable.
Questions?
Sorry for not including you in my comment earlier around staff that probably unfairly get things. I suspect that was at the top of that list. That wasn't. Two questions for me. Effectively line 1, agreement. 2.5 times more agreements made. Obviously, it's still a small baseline. Is that a trend we're going to see continuing, do you think, in the current fiscal climate?
It wasn't so much that, it was a wee bit more of a pattern of people paying slightly later. So the agreements did increase that past year.
The other, to me, very obvious one, $60,919 for subdivisions. Can we have some further context on that?
Sure. We have a remissions policy for new subdivision development. So the developers, and once the development is completed, can apply for their subdivision for up to 2 years, where they are remitted UAGC's community rate, and basically puts it into like a contiguous operation for them, without being contiguous, because that's not what the sign is. So it's a policy in place to give those people benefit after their development costs, and this year was the first year that one of the major rating developments
And that ties into the next question of why we didn't see that last year, but thank you for that. Good summary. That's it from me.
Your Worship, could just clarify what the Airbnb adjustment is?
There was no real adjustments on Airbnb this year as such. Anything that was taken off would carry through to the 1st of July, so most of the changes in there don't happen within the rating year, unless there's an error on our part. Everybody else that stopped operating as those Airbnbs would have done so as of the 1st of July this year.
So what is the adjustment? How does it work?
So if you're an Airbnb owner, the adjustment, so if we incorrectly charge you a commercial rate, we could reverse that if you've stopped trading as a commercial operation within the Airbnb business. Everything for that is dated to the 1st of July, so if they stop partway through the year, it starts again, the changes start at the 1st of July the following year.
So how have we gone with capturing Airbnbs on a commercial rate?
Quite well so far. I think we had an uptake previous year of probably 20 units. It's not as high this year. There's not as many people going into it. I think because the cost, again, against the operation of the business with turnover is stopping them from actually opening those businesses.
So I'm confident that we've pretty much captured.
As much as I can find, yes, we do, again, we do record that through the summer period in the main, to find people that are advertising through that.
Because through the last conversation we had around the table about this was basically that the only option the staff had was to is watching for advertisements and driving around the neighbourhood, basically like the old days of the sorry, the old days of the TV licenses, when they're looking for a TV aerial. But because there were an awful lot that was slipping through the net and you know, at the same time the council was paying top dollar, charging top dollar to moteliers, and the Airbnbs were getting away with the residential rate, so.
So always an ongoing effort there, Paul, so we always trying to capture, and again, people let us know as well. So I know we're doing a review around the Franz Fox area for this year coming. Thank you.
Craig, as far as communication out there in the wider community with options for payment programs, being whether it's weekly, fortnightly or whatever, and also utilisation of the gold card for many against their rates, are we doing enough to let people know of the options that are there for rates?
I think so. We could do probably another push with some information on our website. The rebate has been pushed by the government because of the changes this year. So that should hopefully see an upswing. We did have an upswing of that take anyway last year. So we rose from mid 330s to close to 400 uptake for that last year. A couple of reasons behind that, I guess the rate amount is going up as well, so the swinging balance puts more people over the threshold. And yeah, we've got about a 33% direct debit base at the moment. That could drive up to higher, I guess, if we did a promotional push, but we send those forms out as an attachment to every invoice. So every invoice, that direct debit form is one of the attachments.
Some people find it very hard to come and say, look, I can't manage this. It's pride, but it's important that we are respectful to that and make people feel comfortable in making that request, and we do what we can to assist them. So if you think there's more that we can do, if you do, let us know.
Yeah, generally
it's a message we need to be putting out there.
It could be a message we can put through to say, you know, contact us first, that's fine. I think that could work, but it is part of our process that once they have the letters of reminder, we contact them personally and discuss what the people want.
And sorry, from just through the chair, one of the things we are looking at is what's the communication strategy wrap around the rates process, so that people actually have a better understanding when they get their rate letter about what they're actually paying for. We've got some really good examples with Councillor Vernon for showing the Canterbury ones, which have a pamphlet and this is what the rates. Those are things I think will make a difference for people because they can see it at the same time. I think there was commentary as when we went out for the LTP around the rates that people don't really get agitated about the rates until they see it in their mail, in their letterbox. And I think that's exactly what does happen. So if we can put ourselves as a proactive way, we're looking at how we can do that.
Probably a real one, maybe not one you can't see today, that 33% direct debit you said, where does that sit in comparison to like a local government average?
Pretty close across the board, I would say. Most councils probably would be looking between 33 and 50% as their ideal, but to get even half would be a real stretch. I don't think anyone's up to that point regularly.
The report, thanks, Craig. Thank you. Have you got? No?
No, I was just going to move to accept it.
Go you. All right, if there's nothing further for Craig, we will move on to that. Has anybody got any further questions for Craig? No? All right, so with that, the resolution is that the report be received and that council approves the total proposed rates, write-offs and remissions of $284,298, including GIST. And Councillor I was just waiting for him to see whether he was...
Yeah.
Councillor Davidson is happy to move it, and I'm just looking for a seconder, please. Councillor Beard, thank you very much. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? We need to note that councillor Burden was not here for the vote, please. Right, thank you very much for that, Craig, greatly appreciated. So we will now move on to the administrative resolution. I would like to put that ahead of the future delivery of water services, mainly because I want to complete all the business end of the meeting to enable time and discussion for the future delivery of water services. So I'm recommending we move these two around. If everybody's happy with that. Thank you. So moving on to administrative resolution. Council is required to confirm its seal being affixed to the following documents which you have in front of you: warrants of appointment for noise control, project manager, water delivery services, and senior RMA compliance officer. There's nothing here to say, basically. I'll do it anyway. So if I can have, yes, a mover and a seconder, please, to confirm that council will affix its seal to the documents applicable to the names I've just read out, please. So as you move it, thank you, Councillor Kesson. Was that Jane? Was that Councillor Neil? Thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much for that. And we will move on to the future delivery of water services, which is on page 40, and I ask the Chief Executive to step forward for this one, please, with supporting staff noted here in the audience. Supporting staff.
Look, I won't go all the way back through the water. We know we've had a long process with this, working towards this, but I just thought it would be useful just to give you the latest update. We did have a meeting with elected officials in Lemire. It was Councillor Beard and Councillor Gillette and Lemire, with Buller and Gray and their equivalent elected officials. We went through the negotiation brief that we all discussed and had our position on. I have to say through the meeting, there was a general agreement to the negotiation brief details in terms of the content of what we forward. But there was an issue that became evident that perhaps the Buller and Gray colleagues were not in the same arena that we were in thinking of how the setup of the CCO may look. Remembering these were a potential testing of what it would look like to inform us better in terms of where we go forward. I've raised that with the other two CEs, that actually there seemed to be a disjoint there, that Westland District Council is very keen to see what that forming of that CCO would look like, what would be the guidelines and the position around that. Their view was that they equally were as interested, but because they weren't at that point, they were waiting to get to that point, whereas I believe we were already wanting to have that discussion. We also asked that we have another discussion around that, but it will all depend on decision today, but there was another opportunity to firm that up if we wanted to, because that's a key issue for us to move forward as how that CCO would be stood up, and also the fact that there are always off-ramps, if you like, for the process. So, and we confirmed that with those colleagues, that was their understanding as well, that it was always a process to be worked through, not cemented, and then that was done. And the second update that I just would like to convey with everyone was we invited DIA to come and talk to us around getting some more detail around this process. They were very clear, and I've had a conversation with them, just for clarification for you both. It was raised at the meeting, would we be able to use as a single business unit, what was the pressure in terms of the regulatory and monitoring? They were very clear about what the extent of that would be in the current frame, And they also are very clear that the IT systems, although there was some discussion here that we would be able to use the IT system that we had, they were very categorically clear that the IT system would not be able to be used in its current form that we have here. It would require a new IT system. So just so that those things are now all on the table, you were privy to that conversation I had with DIA last week. Thank you. So I believe, the paper is ready for discussion.
Right, so you've all had the information, got the report. Questions?
So I'm sort of wondering how we make the decision. I mean, we haven't. Sort of need that information to make a decision, and then what exactly you mean by the IT. Our IT will have to be redone, Barbara. Can they say that?
Sorry, well, and I can answer the IT component for you, Jane. The discussion here was, could we use our existing IT and maybe just clip something onto it to be able to manage the monitoring and reporting requirements? And there was a discussion that potentially it could be. When I talked to DIA about that, because that was not the impression they'd given me earlier, and I think I said that at the time, so I wanted to confirm that, and they said to me, no, you would not be able to just use that IT system and add some additional clip-ons to that to provide the monitoring and reporting. It would be a much more significant monitoring and reporting requirement. So I didn't get to the detail of what that would look like. I just asked them for their view as to, is what we have. Is what we have now currently, what in their view would that be sufficient? They need in their view as well. We would have to explore all of that. That was for the signal business unit.
This means that we must have a fairly robust IT system. I'm not an IT person, so I don't know. It seems surprising that couldn't cope with
It's not
something
about
like
the
that.
robustness of the system, it's about the ability to manage the capability of the additional requirements in a way that would be able to be done consistently and timely. I would have to go back and get all of the details for you, Jane. I didn't want to pursue that. I just wanted to get a feel for, is there something I've missed in terms of a risk or potential risk? And make sure that everyone was at least knew that rather than.
Jane, just as far as your question about the information from the other councils, it is what it is. We've got a time frame on this for decision making and progress.
Yes, in 6 weeks.
We went to Greymouth in all respects to sit down and expect to negotiate some of through some of those points. And the other parties weren't at that awareness of expectations. Time-wise, the one benefit we've got is that if we enter into the agreement, we're not bound to it. There are off-ramps all the way through. So if there's points in the negotiations and discussions that we can't agree on, there are off-ramps to allow any council to step away or to request further information or a visit from DIA or anybody to come and help with those discussions. So the safety
comes
is,
disadvantages as well, the off-ramp.
in what way?
Conditions attached to them or whatever.
No, they're not. No, they're not conditions, and there's no conditions on them. And that's part of what we wanted to talk about at the negotiation table. When you're negotiating, you have off-ramps, which means if negotiations, if conversations fail or come to a stumbling block, you use that off-ramp for further information, further discussion, or whatever. So your exit clauses you have once you've got the CCO or whatever formed, you have an exit strategy that after 2, 3, 4, 5 years or whatever, if somebody doesn't want to belong anymore, they use the exit strategy to exit. Your off-ramps that are in the negotiation period, and that's your safety net. And there's no binding requirements within what you've got to meet to be able to utilise that off-ramp.
And that's a key thing. So because we need to make a decision, because the other two are waiting. And we really don't have a choice. However, if we find something through the process, we can exit. So that's
Before we've actually signed completely.
Yes, if we don't, we have to sign by September the 4th, we have to be in agreement. So this is basically sectioning that we need to get the other work done so that we can be confident to get all the information and get to the finite decision point.
Are we not better to have another meeting with you guys guys first, we'll still have time.
We don't have time,
Come back
Jane.
to us and tonight.
We don't have time. We've got 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
4 weeks. And there's a lot of work. So now what we've also got to start working through is the foundation document that a board would work from, with the CCO structure and everything else. So these are all the discussions that have got to happen, and whether an off-ramp's used or not, because it's not agreement. So there's a lot of work to be done before we even get to that finite point of saying everything's lined up. And of course, through that time, there will be more information coming to the table, I would hope. But I can't say, we can't have discussions without the information, so. And we have got offers from Minister Salvan. I talked to him before about more information should we require it when we get into those stages. Paul?
Through your worship. So if there are off-ramps and there's an exit clause, then I don't understand why we can't. We've been herded in one direction. If an exit clause is viable for us to stand alone, why aren't we being allowed to pursue that?
An exit clause is what you use once you have formed the entity, and there'll be a time frame on that. So after 3 years, 5 years, or whatever the agreed period of time is, that if any of the councils wish to no longer be part of that entity, they will use the exit strategy to remove themselves. But there will be terms and conditions on that, because of course this is our assets and everything else. So the off-ramp is what you use through the process.
I mean, to recap, we went through this process early on. We came to the conclusion that we were better off with our own business unit within the house. We went through that into the long-term plan, and we were told that wasn't the go, that we were being pushed towards a 3-council CCO, so we had to hastily withdraw that. Now we've been, as I say, we've been herded into making an unpalatable decision potentially, and ostensibly the government is saying, well, it's got an option of you can still have a standalone unit.
Well, they're saying you should have an exit strategy.
Often from one would probably.
No, we're saying we
would be
want
my
an exit
assumption.
strategy. Off-ramps the government has agreed to through negotiations. Exit strategy is what we've agreed to as 3 councils.
Well, in my view, I mean, the whole thing is just bureaucratic bullying and the politicisation of this is unbelievable.
No, there's no argument against you there, Paul, with that. We agree. But the situation is, we have to make a decision,
Yes.
and there'll be consequences for us if we don't.
Well, that's the
But
bullying that I'm talking about.
I know that.
That's the
But
bullying.
whether it's bullying or not, look, if they'd just come out and said, you've got no option, this is what you have to do, we'd be doing it.
Well,
Unfortunately, they gave us options that weren't clear,
Well, that's
but
right.
originally too, bear in mind that we were talking about a partnership with Grey, and it was either standalone or going with Grey.
correct.
And it was upon getting to Greymouth, we found that Grey and Fuller had agreed.
That's right, when we were given the option of having a standalone, which we agreed to, and then they whip it out from underneath.
The goalpost moved.
Can I just, through the chair, can I just clarify that, because I arrived as, I think you just made that decision around the single business unit was the preferred way to go. So it was an opportunity for me then to have a look at it, at what had been worked up as a single business unit at that point in time, which was 2 criteria, which are not the same criteria they are now. The roadmap changed. There was a huge amount of additional requirements, whether we like it or not, and whether, if I had to stand my hand on my heart and say, look, are these all going to be in place? I don't know. The information we were provided, and DIA was very clear about this, changed. We had much significant more monitoring, reporting. They talked about regulatory. That backdrop changed from when you were in the position of looking at a single business unit. When you were looking at a single business unit, when I first looked at it, I was almost of the impression, and I could be incorrect and could be corrected in this, I was of the impression that actually it was really just a let's just do it the way we've always done it, but we'll call it a single business unit, we'll run a wee ring fence around it, and we'll call it a single business unit. And I thought, well, it's a bit odd, but okay. Then as we progressed with DIA, it became very, very clear this was not going to be tolerated as business as usual with just a little Chinese wall around it that calls it a single business unit, but the finances were all actually the same and you're essentially doing the same. That wasn't the same. We had to change. We had to significantly bolster up that single business unit when we started doing the workings for it, because it was insufficient. I believe it was really light. Then we got into a position where they really started talking about what additional things were going to be required, and it was quite clear that the single business unit, and whether we can argue whether it was deliberately done this way or not, was not going to be a preferred position, which is what we got into with the LTP. And so then we had to have, and then that was clouded. At the same time, we were in discussions with Gray, with Buller. If you remember the whole history of Buller had different partners and then it changed. Gray was happy to go with us if we needed to go that way. They were still in single business unit. Then I think the realisation, I won't speak for my colleagues, the realisation has occurred for them that they are unable to sustain a single business unit and they see benefits in the other. That's for their decision, but nevertheless, it has changed a bit. And I think we just need to be aware of that. We're not comparing apples with apples with the single business unit we started with what will now be deemed as a single business unit. That's all.
Yes, but of course the bottom line is that this is fixing a problem that doesn't exist. We're not Havelock North, and that's the tragedy and it's a terrible thing that happened over there. But I mean, this was bureaucratic excess of what they've done. And previous government, homogenised it across the whole country and say you're got to do the same and redo all three waters, and then it comes under the national government and basically the same thing, and, with a different hat on it. But there's still nothing in my view to stop us from standing on our own. This is going to, there's no doubt whatsoever that once this is up and running and the first bills hit the letterbox, there will be pitchforks in the street. And so there should be.
The problem we got, I can say, you probably can't say, we lead down the garden path with wrong information. And we'll feed shit, right? And we've made the last call based on the wrong information. I've been through this somewhere else, and we've had the same conversation. I don't like where it's going neither, but I know there's ramifications if we don't. And if you want to go down that track, then away you go, but there's ramifications coming if we don't.
Say there's ramifications if we don't, yeah, that's fine, I get that. But then there's an off-ramp and an exit strategy.
When we talk about an sorry, unless I've misunderstood you, Tom. When we talk about the off-ramp and the exit strategy, that's as we form up with the three together with one CCO. If you decide that you wish to go with a single business unit, don't have an exit strategy, there are no off-ramps. No. You guys are there.
We're on our own. Well,
you will form your own island until it becomes an add-on. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that this legislation, like Water Department law, was passed in September last year?
Yeah.
And they provided us with the council of 5 options, but in reality there was actually only one option. And so they tested the water, measured the appetite of the councils. I think they had an expectation that we would all form CCOs. As time progressed, it was clear to government that that wasn't what councils were interested in doing. So what you're saying is the rules and the criteria and the testing has made it more and more difficult to accept anything other than a multi-CCO arrangement. council. So when we discussed this in February and we did our own analysis and we agreed in February that we'd go with a single unit, obviously central government said, we don't like that. We're going to make it harder and harder and harder. This is a total political decision that we're making today. Because I've sat down and analysed it. I've gone through it and addressed all the issues and the arguments that supposedly support a CCO. And none of them stack up in my mind, because it's all based on assumptions. DIA hasn't, everything they're saying about economies of scale, etc., are all assumptions.
What I would say to you is that when I talked about a single business unit, if you went back and looked at the criteria that they framed up that single business unit for the decision in February, it is not the same with the knowledge that you now have for a single business unit requirement now. And we were all in this room when DIA was very clear that a single business unit will be looking at a regulatory type overview. Now, I don't know about you, but a regulatory type overview is not something to be taken lightly. And I don't believe, and I don't believe, I don't believe that they have already investigated, I believe, in some areas. So I don't know, I can't speak for the M7 and I don't speak on a political platform. All I'm saying to you is that what we have in front of us and we've worked up is before we started with a single business unit, it is different. They're very clear about what will happen. If a single business unit goes forward, you'll have a significant additional scrutiny just by the fact that you are a single business unit. I'm just relaying what we all heard them say. So, you know, that was my position in that.
But they're just painting a picture where, because, I mean, the water services can be managed with a standalone unit or a CCO. It's just a business unit. The only difference is the structure of it. The functions are identical. But what they're saying is, if it's a standalone, we're going to hit you harder, because that's not what we want. We want you to be a CCO. That's what it's all about.
So isn't that pretty straightforward? Doesn't that sum it up? We go alone, we're going to get the
Yeah, I'm not an expert in the water field, but I've got a question for you, Earl. What's the biggest risk of going with Grey and Buller, Westland?
That's not a question that's appropriate to ask the staff.
Oh, sorry.
So it's not appropriate to ask them or their opinion on relationships with other councils.
Can you answer
that? Thanks. What's the risk of our relationship?
The biggest risk of forming with Grey and Buller.
Are you talking relationship-wise? Are you talking business-wise?
No, in terms of partnership.
With the partnership, the biggest risk?
Of not. You said of going with them. Yes.
I don't think there is a risk if you get negotiations right. In favour of us, there is no risk. The risk of not going with them is potentially we will become, as Barb just said, an atoll very quickly, because even our own West Roads will be looking for the big contracts, and we will become down the road as far as where their work lies. So I see risks by not. I would like to get into the negotiation stage so we get more information, we get a better understanding of where our partners sit further up the coast, because at the moment it is very new. We are all very new to the table as far as how we see this working or not. So to me, I would sooner, and I'm not saying this to influence anybody, it's my personal opinion, but the risks of do we or don't we, I think there's more risk to not at this stage. To me, the risks of joining are minor, because we sit in a controlled seat going forward into negotiations. As soon as we don't sit at the table, we are vulnerable to being told what we will be doing. We will have no say at the table as far as negotiations, as far as structure, setup, or anything else, and even to what it's going to cost our ratepayers.
What I can say through the chair is that I know that all of the staff and all of the management teams at all three council want to deliver a high quality service to their ratepayers. They cannot be meetings.
Just on that question, mate, if you're asking about the risk to this entity, it's just suggested what it is. The problem for me is bigger, right? So the relationship between the three districts is crucial in the eyes of Wellington, right? We're already promoting ourselves currently on all these projects as all working together in one, right? And we're doing it currently on TTPP on a number of things. Now, if all of a sudden someone drops off, what does that send to Wellington? It's sending to Wellington that we're full of shit, right? We're not actually together. So this is an issue I know, and it's a horrible issue, and we don't agree on it, but it's got bigger ramifications than just this water thing. So you need to keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. The trust there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing too that we probably need to make clear here, and it's agreed with all councils around the country, is that, the government is, there's no two ways about it, looking at bringing councils together.
Yeah.
We already work with Grey, with waste management and so forth.
Yeah.
We're already building those bridges between our own councils. This is regarded as being potentially one of those steps by the government at looking at shared services to bring and lessen the council numbers around the countryside. We've had the rhetoric about the regional councils. We don't know what the future looks like, but we do know that they're talking about our future. So to me, this is a larger scale of what we're already doing with Grey, waste management shared. This is water services shared.
So they've got to work together.
Yeah, we do, because we actually are in a very good position with Wellington, held in regard, and the minute we slip off that, we will be right down the bottom very quickly.
So this is a step towards amalgamation?
They haven't said that, Jane, but the conversations in Christchurch last week was certainly everybody was agreeing potentially that that's where it's going to go.
Or is that such a bad thing?
Well, no, it's not, but this is the thing, you've just said, is it a bad thing? No, it's not. So what does that involve? It means councils working together and sharing services and finding better ways of doing things. Isn't that what this is?
Well, I don't think this is a better way of doing it personally, but the,
How do we judge that?
I see in the report choosing a different pathway could result in amalgamation in the future. It's like it's written there as if this is a terrible thing. I think it's a good result.
I think it's just a flag. There is potential for that. It's never one. It's not intended to be one or the other.
Donna, sorry, Nish.
I just feel like I know that it seems like we just don't have a choice, which that's what breaks me. We're voted in here for the ratepayers. They are asking us, for a decision for them. We're losing that control in Westland, isn't it? And we don't have, they're taking the choice away, which the ratepayers voted us in to make those choices for them. But we're actually not allowed to make a choice. Because they're sort of pulling us into it, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah, you're right, but yeah, Ash.
So, backing up the point all three of you have made, in February we sat here and decided to go alone. Great day, we're going to keep our staff, everything was going to be good, we were going to move forward, and the Three Waters nightmare of the last 5 years was going to be gone. That's changed. That's not an option anymore. We now have, as all three of you have alluded to, we don't have a choice to make. We have a choice to make. Fundamentally, there's only one horse you can back in this race at the moment, and that's the issue. To make that decision today as a collective or not, and why will cause we end up in one of these situations anyway. The carrot of less funding, staying alone, less funding access, there was a carrot to go in. Now we've got the more scrutiny, more requirements, more important, the heightened cost. When we made that decision in February, we made it on the back of starting up another bank account with Westpac or ASB or who we bank with to ring fence our costs, keep our staff to what they were. It was the status quo. That wasn't the case. It was never going to be the case, but that's what we thought it was at the time. That's no longer an option. I moved that. I was stoked to move that. I thought we were making a great move in the right direction. That option no longer exists, as far as I'm concerned. And we can decide around the table, who votes in whatever direction today, where we're going to land on that here. I suspect the outcome is going to be the same regardless of where the vote sits today. What starts happening tomorrow, what starts happening in days, weeks, hours. where we do have some control is around the CCO setup, and you've alluded to pitchforks in the street. If we don't put in tight parameters around that, we're going to let it go. But if we control that process, as a CCO that's not tasked with making money, it's tasked with delivering a service, and that then looking after its assets or our assets, wherever the assets lie, and not being driven to return a dividend, we can control some of those pitchforks in the street, and there'll be pitchforks in the street tomorrow, regardless of where we land on this. But we can control the setup of that CCO to give better outcomes. If we walk away from that and let someone else decide how they're going to set the CCO up, they can decide what they want to do. If they want dividends out of it, our ratepayers are in trouble, and they will get burnt twice, and there will be pitchforks in the street. But if we go into that and control how we set that CCO up, I feel we've got far more control in the position.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to see if anybody else is wanting to come in, because, yep, all right, Paul. Just to give anybody else an opportunity to speak, please.
Right, mate, you may have to have a say. I'm just going to say that there's, the carrots are a bit long in the draw, of course, it's now
Into sticks.
Sticks. And the Clyde is left, right and centre with those sticks. But what about the other councils that have already decided to stand on their own? Are they now pariahs?
No, they've got Crown observers.
All?
I know of 3, and the last lot that have pulled out. I guess that will be conversations that will be had with them in the next 2 weeks.
So the Crown observer is doing what?
I don't know, I'm not privy to exactly what they're doing, but I know the intention is to have discussions and see if they can patch up negotiation talks and get the people back to the table.
It's will be quite a cost too, don't they?
Sorry?
Crown observer will come with
Yes,
quite
it
a
will.
cost.
It will.
Another stick.
Another stick, yeah.
Look, so be it, sticks or not.
Yeah.
It is, it's unfortunate. That's the way it is. I mean, we've got in here that,
There's no reason to roll over your worship, though.
No, it's not. Well, no, but Paul, we've got in here that going as one unit could provide long-term benefits and be more cost-effective for communities across the West Coast. Could be. To not go as an entity may provide long-term benefits and more cost-effectiveness for the communities on the West Coast. We don't know. But the consequences of not going with them at the moment for us, being that we are a small rate base, we are a small population base, I would think are far more serious and extreme as far as repercussions that could come back and bite us. I mean, we would be kissing off. I mean, we've made some serious ground with, yes, we didn't get regional deals across the road, but that collaboration that Francois was talking about is paramount, because that is the edge of what I said before. Ultimately, the government will start putting councils together and start combining. And if you're obstinate and ruthless at the table saying, bugger off, we don't want to be a part of you, you will have no option will be done to you.
We lost the regional deal because of squabbling.
Yes. We did.
Squabbling.
Yes, we did.
Councils.
And we were told that. Yes.
Sorry, I realise that this is a really difficult decision for the teams around the table. I wonder whether perhaps it might be easier if we separated the distaste for the process and started thinking around what are our opportunities. You don't have to like it, you don't, just think about what are the opportunities and what are the risks. If we think about, at the moment, we're sitting here, we've got our colleagues, both colleagues up the road have joined up, publicly said they're joining up, they're moving to join up to form a CCO. We've got Westlands who are sitting here and who are saying we're still undecided, we need to make a decision. If we make a decision to go with the 2 colleagues up the road in Grey and Buller, we still have the opportunity of an off-ramp to get off at any given point if we can't agree on the negotiations that we want to. So you're not locked into it. You have the opportunity to enter into those negotiations and try and frame up a CCO that forms how we want it to deliver the services for our district as much as it is for the other 2. So for me, that looked like opportunity. If you decide to go to a single business, and I take on board absolutely that there isn't the information that gives you absolutely everything nailed down, T's crossed, dotted I's about what that looks like, but that's the reality of what it is, right? You go along the single business unit, You're not going to go with colleagues up the road, that you shut that down, because then it would be you'd have to, if that didn't work, and then you had to go back to them, would they take you around the table? I don't know. You go along the single business unit, there are no other off-ramps. You will have to deliver against that single business unit all of the issues that we've talked about. You won't have any of the things, whether we agree that they're there or not. You're not having the additional debt opportunities, you're not having the scale, you're not having the capital works program. If we think about the content and not the process, where are we best placing ourselves for Western residents? I think that's got to be the most important, surely. We all agree we don't like the way we've been handled to get here, but that's neither here nor there. The important thing I would have thought would have been, what are we doing to do the very best job for Westland ratepayers right now? And you, unfortunately, and I don't take it lightly, and I don't envy any of you, are having to have the position of you've had the information you've had, and you get to make a vote. But let's not get caught up in the process.
Yeah, I feel that we've engaged in this, consulted, discussed, received submissions on a process that looked at the pros and cons of each option, but at the end of the day, all we're talking about is a political imperative to satisfy our future outcomes based on politics rather than whether either model makes any sense whatsoever. Because I've gone through the whole rationale for a CCO and I can't see that it has any justification. And even the risks, we've got no idea how bad Buller and Grey's three water assets are and what their current debt levels are. We'll be jumping into an organisation.
But that's what
we haven't done the due diligence.
That's the guide rails you have in the CCO. You don't go and do due diligence on them. You have to make sure that you maintain the position so you are not cross-subsidising them. You won't be able to do that if you don't go to the table. Up to you.
Yeah, but we'll be making a decision to go with them and then doing the due diligence. That seems a backward process.
Why would you do?
If you're going to
why would you do the due diligence? Why wouldn't you say, as long as I'm not cross-subsidising you, as long as I'm not disadvantaged by that?
What guarantee is there of that?
Well, that's what you have to work through with the CCO. It's like the chicken and the egg, Stephen. Yes, it is. There's no right answer here. All you can look for is opportunity. What gives you the most flexibility? That's all you've got. I don't know how better to frame that for you.
Well, that might be a local government kind of approach to forming a business kind of solution, but it's not how I would approach it from a business point of view.
I don't think it's how anybody would approach it from a business point of view, but we're not in that situation. Yes, it is. But that's the thing, we're not in a business situation. We're in a situation that we are in. The other thing I will say is that if we go on our own and we are provided with no option and we really do not know what that looks like or if it would be the case, but word is on the street that it will be, we will come to the table with no negotiation rights or abilities or words because the structure will already be put in place, decisions would have been made, and they will be telling us whether we're cross-subsidising them or not, because we will not be at the table to ensure that that doesn't happen. And that's where the risk.
So where my focus would be, people would be getting, competitive is the right word here, getting ahead of the game with that CCO.
Because it puts us in with some form of control.
And we've already put the negotiation positions up. DIA agreed that they were the right ones. We put them up. You know,
Most of them are going to be, most of those principles are going to be what Grey and Buller want as well, to safeguard their ratepayers as well. I think they're going to be fairly standard negotiations. But I agree with Stephen, I think, yes, I feel that we're going one step ahead before we've had enough negotiating, but
I can tell you the other two, Jane, are leaving it all up to the CCO to do. Okay?
That's a fact.
That's
a fact.
And that's what I meant before about we need to be leading it.
And we've already argued that point, that there's no way in hell the whole structure will be left to the CCO. platform must be built from the three councils, which is why we put those negotiation points forward to have that discussion. And we're going to go back and revisit that and do it again. So at the moment, we can say that and leave that, but if we say no,
If we agree.
we'll be told
to go
what we're
with
doing.
the
Have it.
CCO, we decide next meeting.
Okay?
If we say yes, we go for the CCO, when is the next meeting likely to be?
Of the three,
To further develop the negotiations.
Yeah.
Next week.
Yeah, we penciled in, but it was a bit huge because this decision had to be made. We thought, yes, to pencil in, at least.
So would we feel more comfortable, Stephen, if that meeting had been had? Can we have another meeting after that? Subject to how things go there?
No,
Because we won't.
we've run out of time, Jane. We have
We've only
to,
got 5 weeks to get our service plan to DIA. We are running out of run.
we've already pushed our limit with time. As far as us making a decision.
Well, we'd have been starting that part anyway. The meeting's not till next week, so.
Yeah, the focus needs to be on that CCO, Jane, getting it control.
Fine.
I'm ready to say yes, say
Why are you so sure?
Because we've got no choice, you're saying that. Just because you're skinny, you don't want to put your hand up. It's got to happen. It's got to happen today.
So with that, then, I mean, we are starting to go around in circles, and yes, you've still got questions, but they can be answered as we go. As I said, we have offerings. And there's no way, if we feel that we shouldn't be using it, that we won't be using it. If we feel the need to use an offering, we will be.
It will go as a single unit.
No, we will go back and see whether anything's resolvable, and we can seek more information or whatever, or advisement, and then we'll make that call. That's why we wanted to.
Why would
ensure
that be an
that
option?
we-
Why would that be an option in the future if it's not now? You know?
It's only until you've actually completed the negotiations and it's informed the,
We get that as an option,
what's that?
an offering.
We've got them all
A
the way through.
single unit will only be an option if we go through this process first. And then will it be an option?
We've got no need for an offering, Jane, if we don't.
So we say we've got an offering.
You might
but
insert one
really-
CCO conversation into another, or get swallowed up by a Selwyn who are preparing themselves to be a
So we can-
CCO in the space. And you become 10,000 people, 7,000 radical units that get swallowed up by the fastest growing district in the country for the last forever, and we get some terrible outcomes for our people. Well, it's not a one.
Yeah.
If you're going to get,
I'm just saying that we talk about an offering, but really realistically, we probably haven't got an offering.
We have. We've agreed that there will be off-ramps through the discussion period.
Yeah, I think Jane's
Well,
saying,
you're actually
where do we,
doing an
where do we
offering
end
somewhere
up if we do take the offering?
Yeah.
Where do we end up? You know,
Well, we don't know, because that's when you have to actually, that's when you have to
There's
see,
another
it's not going to be.
Well, I think we're in a better position because at least we've tried, right? And we've shown the Wellington lot that we've had a crack at it. It hasn't worked. Back off, leave us alone because we're going to continue to work on it. But at least, well, I don't know, but at least we showed we've tried to work together to get there. We didn't quite make it.
If the consensus is, if we take an off-ramp and a breakdown, the consensus is that's it, we don't want to enter back into negotiations, that's what we do, and it becomes a standalone decision. And then we face whatever consequences are there as well. But the off-ramps are designed for that, but primarily they're designed to allow that entity to get more information, more advice, whatever's needed, and then if they're happy to come back and restart the negotiations, there is space for that. If they decide, no, that's it, we're out, then that's what it involves. And that's what's happened already around the country with some councils. So,
I fundamentally agree with consideration. I fundamentally agree with consideration. I really hate to be.
I think we all do, Jane.
It's a process to this government the way we've done it.
He's trying to tell us something.
I think that's quite a unanimous opinion, that, you know, nobody's happy about the pathway that we've all been kind of shoved into. So with that, is everybody happy that we should move on to making a decision? Are you quite comfortable with that?
I don't know if that's right terminology, but I guess.
No, I know.
Leave the conversation as leaders
Yes,
do.
yes,
Yeah.
Okay, so The preferred option is option 1, it's been put forward in the paper, so I will float that first. The reason that option 1 has been identified as the preferred option is that there are advantages to working in collaboration with the West Coast District Councils. This could provide long-term benefits and be more cost-effective for communities across the West Coast. Following that, the recommendation is that the report be received and that Council approves to progress with the establishment of a joint water organisation owned by Westland, Grey and Buller District Councils. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Lira. Seconded, Councillor Davidson. Sorry. All in favour? I would like a clear show of hands, please, with this. 1, 5. Against? 1, 2, 3. Do you want your votes against recorded? That's all 3. Right. So with that, the decision has been made.
Just a question for you, like, the whole 3 years we've sat here, you haven't voted, but today.
I have voted.
What has to be voted on?
I said that I will not do a vote when it's a tie as far as those normal decisions. Casting vote. And I have voted at other council meetings, as is on record.
Keep the initial vote, but then nothing anything.
Councillor Neil, Councillor Glegg.
Just the chair, I requested a motion to discuss pensioner housing, be added to the agenda. Where did that get to? I emailed that. Earlier the week.
I picked up your email in terms of the one around looking at that council headquarters, but I didn't look into the house one, I'm sorry.
I did see it, but I think to bring it into the August council meeting with a report, it would have to be to autumn of the year for an agenda item, because with what the information you were seeking is quite excessive. There's a lot of information there and there's been no focus on that. And at that point, there's only one council meeting left before we're dissolved for the next one. So the consideration is done as a recommendation for the incoming council.
Okay, well, I didn't receive any response from anyone, but I would quite like to have included in the August meeting at least a consensus from council how they feel about proceeding. We don't necessarily have to do the groundwork immediately, but I just want to get a feel from around the table, some direction from council as to where pension housing should sit.
Just to add to Stephen's comments, last night I was reviewing those CCO workshop videos, and I think it could be beneficial for people to actually go back and watch them. I think we were quite clear about the next steps on pensioner housing and where that went, and none of that has fallen off the radar. So there's some very clear steps about a full analysis of the stock and everything. So
we can bring that into the report that we put up.
Can you share those videos?
Well, I can't, but I could possibly. Thanks, Di.
And as I said to Councillor Burden last night when he mentioned that to me, is that I went with the former CEO to Christchurch to City Care, talked to them and get an understanding, and Mel was with us as well on how they manage the pensioner housing there, what the situations are. And we actually had an offer from their building manager for him to come over and do a full assessment, roof, floor, walls, everything. And the CEO at the time rebuffed that and wanted to use somebody in staff that had no building background. And then he actually pushed back on that offer. And also that all the information and guidance that they were offering.
My concern is just that the work on that is stalled. We talked about it 2 years ago. And we need to get things moving because as part of we need to complete the restructure of the CCO.
Watching those videos, the direction we gave was to have that wrapped up by Christmas 23, and that hasn't happened.
And it's just, we talked about it the other day, but because we're just heading into that tight period of election period. So as Steve said, if we bring something to council, then, you know, hopefully we.
We can move forward into the next term.
Absolutely. And I mean, the other thing too is don't look at it negatively and say we haven't done anything, because we've actually what we've done is we've actually dealt with all the easy stuff, and we've bought them, we've made the decisions, bought them in-house and done whatever. Now we're left with the land, which Yarn's already taken up on as far as what we can sell, how that's going to be managed. So we've got that, and the only thing that is left after that is the wild foods, which we've talked about today, and the pension housing. So, you know, the big stuff's actually been left to last.
Yeah, some work has been done, but there wasn't a clear solution.
No,
So
no,
it's
you're right.
stalled, and we need to say, well,
Yep.
where does it need, it's holding up the review, so let's just, that's where I want to get some consensus.
Yep.
How the group feels about trying to make that move forward.
Yeah.
I'll touch base with, Stephen, so that we don't miss the point on that, because I missed that.
Yep. You happy with that, councillor?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep, cool. Awesome. All right, so we'll be next month. Okay. So with that, I'm going to turn this over. So now the resolution is to move into the public excluded section of the meeting at 2:45 PM, 2:46 to be precise. Can I have a move and a second, please? Councillor Gleed, Councillor Beard, thank you very much. All in favour? Carried, so that's it. Yeah. 2:46. So we'll take a 5-minute